Chapter 10. The Bunker Age. By the time the last warheads fell, the people who ran the world were already sealed inside a mountain, waiting out the end they had long seen coming. They were the ones who had written the lists, the ruling families, the owners of the media, the heads of industry and finance, the high command, and the specialists they needed to keep it all alive. Everyone left off the lists stayed on the surface. The facilities had been carved deep into the ridge years earlier, stocked for decades, and built to outlast anything the war could do to the world above. The survivors moved in, the doors sealed, and the dark became permanent. Above them, the surface died. Below, the reactors held the line. Compact fission and high-temperature geothermal pulled from the rock, feeding light, air, and heat for 50 unbroken years. Food was grown on the levels given over to it. Hydroponic racks stacked to the ceiling, fungal vats, insect farms, and bioreactors brewing protein for the millions inside. Rule belonged to the same conglomerate that had owned the old world, the old money families, the media that shaped what everyone believed, the industrial and financial houses, and the military command. Underground, they stopped pretending to be separate and ran it all as one. Power shifted among them as conditions changed, and always stayed in the same hands. Below them lived the engineers, technicians, and laborers who kept the machines running on smaller rations and in tighter quarters. In these years, the identity implant spread through the population. It came in as a convenience, a single marker that carried a person's rations, records, and clearance through the sealed doors. Step by step, it became impossible to refuse. It was bound first to rations, then to work placement, then to a compliance score that rose and fell with how closely a person obeyed. By the end, the implant ranked and recorded everyone under the mountain, and a person whose score fell far enough could be cut off from food, from work, and from the system that kept them alive. The strain showed in the lower levels first. Ration shortages emptied the supply lines. Contamination scares sealed off section after section, and resentment hardened between the tiers. Twice that resentment broke into open revolt. Both times the military crushed it, and both times the controls tightened afterward. The powerful spent these same years preparing for the world above. While the lower levels fought over rations, the upper tiers worked on the shape of what would come after the bunkers. In sealed planning rooms, a new city took form in their models. A single defensible core, a fixed order of tiers, and a population that could be tracked and counted from the center. Over the years, the design hardened into a plan, and they gave it a name. Ad Korun, the city they would raise when the surface finally let them return. Everything they had built underground carried into that plan. The tiers, the rationing, the compliance scores, the implant in every citizen, and the few holding power over the many. The years wore on. The ones who had ordered the doors shut grew old and died in the rock. Power passed to heirs who had known only the bunker. A new generation grew up that had never seen the open sky. They were born under artificial light, raised on filtered air, and knew the surface only as a story from before their time. The children of the rulers were raised to govern the city that was coming. The children of the workers were raised to build it and to keep it running. As the decades passed, they began sending crews back up to the surface. The teams went in stages, sealed in protective gear, to test the air and map what the war had left behind. The early reports were grim. The air still burned through seals, the ruins still killed, and some crews never came back down. Then a survey found the valley. Below the ridge, the bedrock sat close and stable. Landslides were rare, and the ground ran wide enough to carry a city. A river ran down through it into a natural reservoir, an underground lake near 50 kilometers across, holding all the clean water a city would ever need. There, above the buried lake, the planners marked the first grid of the core. The city that had taken shape in the dark finally had its ground. After 50 years under the mountain, the powerful made ready to climb back into the light. They had gone down ruling the wreckage of one world, and they would come up to build the next.